Hey, good evening, everybody. So glad that you all are able to tune in this evening. Thank you so much for showing back up again this week, and I am so glad to be here with you all this evening. Um, just let me talk to you for a little while about what's going on. There's so much stuff going on right now. Tonight, we're going to talk about, let me first tell you what we're going to talk about tonight. We're still on small business information with my guest, Anthony Armstrong, who will be joining us a little bit later. Last week, to just give you a short recap, last week we covered business plans and we talked about the different stages or the different parts of a business plan. The week before then, we talked a little bit about self evaluation. So, first, let me tell you this, just in case it's your first time tuning in. I'm Wonderlo, and this is the Ladies Lounge with Wonderlo. And we are on every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We try to talk about things that are interesting to you. We try to give you some information if you're working on trying to start a business, if you're trying to write a book, if you're working on anything special. Then we talk about a lot of personal things. So if you're joining tonight, please don't let this be the last time that you join. That you tune in every Tuesday night for whatever we're talking about. Um, we'll start giving some interaction, and you'll be able to talk to us, and we'll talk to you. But if you want to leave a comment, be sure to go over and do that in the comment section for me. Um, if you haven't already, I'd like for you to go to my Facebook page, which is the Wonderlo. I mean the latest natural Wonderlo on Facebook, and like that page, share, follow, whichever one you want to do. Also, go to our YouTube page and make sure that you subscribe, and then you hit that little bell so that you get notifications when new shows are posted. Um, like I said, just give you a short recap of last week. Business plans, different parts of business plans, how you should start writing one. And the one of the big things that we focused on was that letting you know that your business plan should not be just something written and thrown in a corner. It should be a living, breathing document that you use to guide you through the whole process of starting your business, growing your business, maintaining your business, and then finally having your exit plan to maybe get out of your business. The week before then, we talked about self evaluation, about how many different things you need to look at before you start a business. Because I think a lot of people get excited with the fact that they want to be their own boss, but they've never taken into account all the different pieces and parts that go into being your own boss. The time commitment, the sacrifice sometimes, the money commitment, all those different things. So make sure you're looking at all of that stuff when you start trying to open your own business. Now, tonight, what we're going to talk about is getting funding for your small business. One of the greatest things that happens when we start a business, especially if we don't fund right or we don't capitalize correctly, is that business will not go anywhere. And we have a lot of problems with maybe keeping the business going, maybe getting employees, keeping up with your product, keeping up with your demand. So tonight we're going to talk a lot about different types of funding. Let me read my little notes down here. Different types of fundings, how the basics of getting your business funded, and then some business and personal credit information. So please stay tuned for that, and be sure that if this is something that you missed, that I'm trying to make some little notes in the comment section so you can go back and kind of keep up with it. So I think I ran housekeeping and intro all into one thing. So I'm gonna back up and do a little bit of what's going on. So this week has been a week full of huge news. We know that the Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. We know that women are fearing for whether or not they're going to still have their rights. So I'm not going to get real deep into that because I don't know a whole lot. And I read just a little bit about it, but not a whole lot. But if you are keeping up with international events, that's one of those things. Um, the other side is we had a huge earthquake in Haiti. So please pray for the folks of Haiti. I think right now, last count or last article I read, it said 1,419 people are dead and over 6,000 more injured. So we know that I think Haiti had a huge earthquake some years ago, and I don't really think they've actually rebuilt from that last one. So you're getting hurt, not earthquake, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was an earthquake. You're getting hit again with another one. So those folks are going through all that all over again and having to rebuild. So make sure that we keep them in our prayers. And then, at home, we're still dealing with COVID. We're still dealing with the numbers rising every day. If you're in Arkansas, you know that we have a daily report that comes out that tells you what our numbers are looking like. And we know that the Delta variant is running wild. So we still need to continue to mask up, to wash our hands, to keep our social distance, and to do those things that are going to keep us healthy and keep our families safe also. So, if you're going out, it takes every bit of 5 seconds to put a mask on. If you're going to the grocery store, it takes nothing, little to no effort to really stay away from people, stay out of crowds. If you know that you feel sick, you have a fever, you haven't any of those symptoms, please stay at home. Y'all know I told y'all not long ago about the story being in the grocery store, and the man cleared out the entire a couple of aisles because he sneezed and everybody literally scattered. So folks are serious. We're wanting to stay healthy and stay alive, and nobody wants to be sick and all that stuff. So if you're feeling you're feeling feverish, you're feeling any of those symptoms, you've lost your taste, your smell, any of those things that are going on with you, please, please, please stay at home until you are feeling better. Because what we don't want to do is be part of the spreaders or be part of that spreading and making other people sick. uh, Kids went back to school in Little Rock School District this year. So I have now 5 kids in the Little Rock School District. All my grandkids now. Well, 5 of them in school. I have one that's still not. She's 3 years old. But Sunday night when everybody else was planning to go to school for Monday, she was planning to go to school too, and it was so cute because she wanted a book bag and she was ready to go. So pray for them to have a wonderful school year. I think most of the kids are wearing masks. If they are, thank goodness for that. Make sure that you're telling your child about keeping his mask on during the daytime while they're in class, even when they're on the playground, and make sure they're keeping a distance. And, kids love to talk and play and touch. And little kids, especially each other's faces, hands, whatever, they love to play and touch. So make sure that you're kind of being a little bit more attentive of them and how they operate with their mask on this year. Um, I was loving all of the first day school pictures in our timeline. I know everybody probably had them because I know each year now I don't have my kids are grown, of course. So now it's about watching the grandkids in the timeline, then watching everybody else still sending kids to school. So I enjoy so much watching all of the pictures of the kids going back to school in the timelines over the last couple of days. I have a nephew that's in Atlanta. I think they went back August 2nd. So I hadn't seen his first day of school picture yet, but I've been getting reports, so he's doing pretty good. Um, it is interesting to watch now the new generation or my grandkids go back to school and to see their enthusiasm and to see how excited they are to be back in the classroom because if they went through a year of homeschooling, well, three of them went through a year of homeschooling, and the other two did the intermittent school day. So to see them be able to go back to school now and to be around their friends and to make new friends is absolutely wonderful. We have a new kindergartner, so she is excited about going to school. I think she has one of her big brothers, kindergarten teacher, so she's excited about that. And I cannot wait because I know I'm gonna get a report by the end of this week, and they're going to tell me how much fun they had and how much they've enjoyed being at school. So I'm excited about that for them. And I can remember back when my kids were small and them having those first days of school and getting those reports in the evening from them. So I cannot wait to hear from the grandkids. Let's see, what is it? What else is going on? Now, I briefly read an article the other day about Simone Biles being attacked by a dog. I did not get a chance to finish reading it. So if anybody knows anything about that, please let me know. Because I thought that was the weirdest thing. And it was one of those little glitches that pop up on your phone, little news break thing. So I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing. But hopefully apparently she's okay. I hadn't heard anything else about it. But I'm trying to think what else is going on in the news that was really interesting to me. This past week. It's going to take a few minutes for my guest to get on. So, if you all want to post some questions that you want to answer tonight about funding, if you're interested in some things that we can talk about around small business funding that you might think we might miss, or just to bring it up so we'll have another point of topic to talk about, please feel free to make some comments for me, and I will be sure that we talk about those things or we mention those things during the show. Just a little bit more about Ooh, now this is interesting. The guy that's on the scenes, Watch Me Whip Nene, whatever, has been charged with shooting death of his cousin. Okay, don't want to read all of that. It's not funny. I'm not laughing about what happened. That's not something I want to read. Let's see. That's my break music. Oh, that's interesting. Now, any other time I wanted to look for some news, y'all, I could find 1,000,006 things. Now today I don't see anything that's really all that interesting. Now there's a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, not what we want to talk about today. So we'll stick to the topic at hand. And what I'll do is go ahead and just start talking a little bit about the business and personal side of credit. If you know somebody that's interested in starting a small business and they need some information, now will be a good time to share and invite somebody in to watch. And we'll be getting, like I said, my guests will be on in just a minute, but getting some folks on to watch so that they can get this information. So let's start talking about personal and business credit. And I'll start with the personal side first. One of the things that's going to be really important when you do start your small business is that your personal credit be established. Now, a lot of folks, now there are a lot of businesses, and do not get me wrong, because I don't want anybody to misconstrue and say, well, you have to have a 800 credit score to start a business. That's not necessarily true. And every single business that you start will not be dependent on your personal credit. There are a lot of businesses that will, because you'll need to guarantee loans if you want a business loan. Wait a minute. Here's my guest now. Let me add him in. Hey, Mr. Armstrong.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just sitting here talking.
Well, I do understand.
hmm
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let me introduce you briefly. Everybody know who you are now. We've been on what, this is the third week, so they know. But this is Anthony Armstrong. Anthony is the CEO of Readiness Group Consulting. So he has I couldn't even tell you all his history. He has a very long history in personal and business finance. He coaches in small business development. He does personal finance at a weekly at his church in Pine Bluff. So he is I call him the small business guru. Because if I need to have a question and I can't find an answer, I know who to call or text or email or send up a red flag or SOS or something. But he had information for me. And he has been in banking for umpteen million years. You've worked with different state organizations helping people with small business for years. So information is excellent. On his job, knows what's going on, and can tell you way more about stuff than I can. I learned from him. So Anthony, what we're talking about tonight is funding for small business. And I was starting off with how important it is that your personal credit and your business credit be in line if you're looking to start getting funded. And one of the things I was pointing out, I said, all businesses when you start them don't have to be based on your personal credit, but it does help you if you're going to eventually look for larger funding or you are need to get some commercial funding. So I'm gonna leave it there and let you pick it up and run with it.
Wanda, great job already. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
All right. So, when we start talking about financing your business, personal credit is a huge, huge factor in that determination, especially starting out for new businesses that have not established the history that's needed for credit. And so personal credit, the ownership of the business will be evaluated in those early stages. But organization structure plays a huge part in financing your business as well. And to be able to create a degree of separation from personal and business. So when you start to think about overall, what do you want to be? How do you want to structure your business? Well, by default, if you never incorporate your business, you're operating your business as a sole proprietorship. As a sole proprietorship, you and the business are one. And I know for years we have heard about an LLC. Well, an LLC is a great starter structure to establish business credit. As an LLC, a limited liability company, you begin to start to have a degree of separation from personal and business. And then the business then can start to build or establish business credit apart from the individual. So when we start talking about financing your business and everything, we have to look at organization structure as part of that. We have to determine what organization structure based on taxation, based on financing, is more conducive for us and to structure our business. Then you get off into what we call S corp and C corp. Well, whether you're an S or a C, at the end of the day, you are an Inc., an INC. And a corporation is another way of determining and separating personal from business. So structure, and I would also say not only does personal credit drives and structure matters, but being organized when it comes down to attaining financing and having the right documentation to submit to the lender is almost everything. Organization, if you're looking for financing, you really, really need to start to organize your financial statements and your financial reports. It's what we call lender readiness. You need to be getting lender ready right now before you approach any lender, whether it's a bank, credit union, CDFI, micro lender, private investor, and so on. So if your business is a LLC, multiple member LLC, there's certain tax forms that you have to produce. If you are a single member or sole member LLC, there are certain tax forms you have to produce. Mm-hmm. If you're a corporation, whether S or C, there's different tax forms that you have to be able to produce. Being able to produce those tax forms, typically with a lender, or no matter private or traditional or non-traditional lender, typically they want to see 2 to 3 years of financials. Mm-hmm. If the business is new, they want to see 2 to 3 years financials on the ownership of the business, the individuals or the companies that own the business. But if the business has been around for any amount of time, they're going to request tax information. And so being able to have your business taxes in order, a lot of small business owners do not file taxes. A lot of small business owners are afraid to file taxes. And so it makes it very difficult for small businesses who have not filed their business taxes to be lender ready or to be bankable and to attain the financing that they need to sustain and grow and develop their business enterprises. So you really have to look at it, ask yourself a question: is my business taxations in order? Mm-hmm. Can I put my hands on 2 to 3 years of business taxes? Can I put my hands on 2 to 3 years of personal taxes? This would be a major hiccup in the road, a downfall in the road, if you're unable to. I always ask this question in any seminar just about when it comes down to financing, being bankable, attaining financing. How long would it take for you to put your hands on 2 to 3 years personal financials, 2 to 3 years of business financials? Some people can do it. Some people would say, if I ask the audience today, how long would it take you to do it? Some people say I had to check with my CPA and find out that your CPA haven't even filed your taxes for 2020 or 2019. You stuck. And then you're at their leisure waiting on your CPA or accountant to file business tax returns. Or some people may say, I got to look for it. But you know what? If you're a business owner and you are highly organized and you're seeking financing, the real answer should be less than 60 seconds. Those financials should be uploaded on the cloud, ready in an email that's as an attachment, ready to go, and QuickBooks ready to go, ready to click and send. And what financials am I talking about again? If you're a new business, 2 years of personal, 2 years, 2 to 3 years of business. Lenders use what they call a global cash flow mechanism, where they look at both personal as well as business debt to produce the ratios that they're looking for. So you have to look at 2 to 3 years of personal tax returns need to be in your toolbox. 2 to 3 years of business tax returns need to be in your toolbox. Your filing with the Secretary of State office need to be current. The Secretary of State do not invoice anyone about their franchise taxes. They assume as prudent business owners, as entrepreneurs that's on top of your game, that you know that your franchise taxes is due every May 1st. So you're not going to get an email. You're not going to get a text. They're just going to revoke your stuff, and that's going to hold up your loan. So, your articles of incorporation, if you're a corporation, your articles of organization, if you're an LLC, needs to be current with the Secretary of State office. Pay your franchise fees. Another thing that needs to be in your toolbox is your system generated letter from the Internal Revenue Service. Some lenders ask for that. Other lenders may look at, depending upon your tax filing, that information should be on your tax documents if they're prepared correctly. Your EIN number is what I'm talking about. Your employee identification number. The EIN number for the business is what the Social Security number is for us. Okay. If you're an LLC, you should have an operating agreement. If you're a corporation, they're going to ask you for a corporate resolution. These are documents that you should have, again, in your toolbox. Any bylaws that your corporation have should be in your toolbox. A summation of all of your financial relationships, checking, DDA, demand deposit accounts, savings accounts. You need to have a summation report of all of your various different accounts and who you have financial relationships with. It could be just on a simple sheet, but you need something to say, I got personal accounts over here, business accounts over there. This is not the personal financial statement. The personal financial statement needs to be in your toolbox. And if you do not have a personal financial statement, let's sit down and develop one. That's something that lenders and investors want to see. It's your personal financial statement. Your personal financial statement basically says you broke or you got money, or you somewhere in between. That's what it shows you, folks. If it's filled out right, it's going to show you whether or not you're broke, you got something, or it shows you what you're working with. And then a lender can evaluate and assess that personal financial statement and help determine your approval. So a really good personal financial statement needs to be in your toolbox.
Let me come here real quick before you keep going. Talk just a little bit about how important it is as far as your taxes go. One of the things I used to see as a preparer was people with small businesses, especially if they were a sole proprietor, would try to show a loss every year. And then they tell me, well, I need to borrow money in order to get my business going. And I'm going, but you've been showing a loss for the last 3 to 5 years. And I can honest to God remember years ago when I first started my first business being told by a tax professional that I should show a loss. You don't want to show that you're making any money. And, that didn't sound right to me then. It never sounded right to me anytime after. But when you learn better, you do better. So talk a little bit about how important it is when you go and file, if you're a sole proprietor, LLC, whatever it is, that those tax forms be correct and they do show a profit.
So if you're not showing any money, it falls on the capacity. So if you're showing a net loss on your tax returns, your chances of getting approved has just dropped somewhere around about 97 to 98%, 99% easily if you're showing a net loss. There are some things that can be added back in, like depreciation. but you're not bankable. And so one of the big things that you're talking about, Wanda, is huge. Huge. It's huge because when I get a client, either one or two things don't happen. They do not have financials. They do not have tax returns at all. That's an uphill battle. Or they have tax returns and they have shown a loss because nobody want to pay in taxes. And that really disqualifies you from being lender ready or bankable. You're not going to qualify for no business loan because you're not showing that you have the capacity to repay the loan. Your business is you're not showing your business as being profitable. So if you're not showing that you're making any money and that you're at a loss, nobody wants to give you a loan.
Exactly.
And so I love CPAs. I love them, but your CPA is not your financial planner. They're not your financial strategist. They're not your CFO. There is a different functionality between your CFO, your chief financial officer, and your CPA in accounting. Those are two different functionalities. A CPA is not necessarily looking, most of them, with foresight down the road, trying to see if you're going to be bankable. I say most. There are some ones that are versatile, but most are not. They're trying to make sure that you don't have to pay any taxes because that's what you told them folks, that you don't want to pay no taxes. I don't want to pay no taxes. I don't want to pay Uncle Sam, no. So you know how we are, right? So I mean, they're trying to do what you asked them to do, and in doing so, you're no longer bankable. And so CPAs are advising from that standpoint. I tell people if you're trying to attain financing, you really need to sit down with someone that's have a strong lending background, a strong banking background, that has that role of more of a CFO, along with your accountant. So you're a business owner, and we for years want to wear multiple hats that we're not disciplined in. And I mean, you're a business owner, meaning that it's got to be ran like a business. You need a CFO, you need a CPA, you need a good lawyer, you need an operations person. And I know you're small business and you're saying, hey, I can't afford all that. But you got to be able to outsource some of those services. You may not can't afford it on a full-time basis, but maybe on a consulting basis you can. And so even if you brought someone with a lending CFO finance background during tax season to talk to your CPA, and y'all all met to determine what tax plan and tax strategies need to be implemented that's more conducive for your business to be bankable down the road. Otherwise, what end up happening in the lending game is when you come to me, I tell you got to amend your tax return. Okay, you getting ready to pay money. I don't do people taxes. That's not my that's not my thing. I care to do. Not that I can't do it. I don't do it. Don't want to do it. Don't ask me. So when you get down to that point, you're looking at a tax amendment. Now, the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, says that someone can go in and amend their tax return backwards for 3 years. So you got the right to change your tax return. Now, I always advise people when you show money, you're going to create a tax liability or a tax burden, meaning that you're going to owe the Internal Revenue Service taxes and interest and fees. And so you got to look at this thing from your business standpoint. If you show a profit, you owe taxes. If you do an amendment to show a profit, you're going to owe taxes, folks. And there's no way. But if you can attain the financing that you need, then you really can ramp up. Here's my thing about financing. If you're borrowing money just to stay in business, then you're in the wrong business, or you're not right for that business model. Let me frame it like that as well. When it comes down to borrowing money, attaining financing, it really should be done for one or two reasons, or a combination of both. Assets accumulation. You're using the money, the loan proceeds, to accumulate assets. Now, an asset may be human capital. You may need to ramp up on your personnel, your staffing, and anything. So, human capital is an asset. It's one of your most valuable assets. Or second, you're borrowing the money to for a substantial business development plan, meaning that you're going to take this money. You have a strategic plan on how to substantially grow your business. And so those are the two reasons to borrow money. If you got to make money, people. You got to make money. I mean, if your business is not making money, it's time to restructure your business. And I'm not just talking about organization structure wise, as well as your legal structure, but I'm talking about it's just time to restructure your business. So you have to look at attaining financing has a lot of factors to it. I know it's huge right now, and everybody's saying I can get it in my business name. I'm telling you, in 20 years of lending in banking, unless your company is substantial, your personal credit matters. You need to look at your personal credit if you're wanting to attain financing for your business. Nobody's saying you have to be 7 or 8, but there are some things that you need to address as it relates to your personal credit score. There are some bankers out there, some lenders out there that they're not necessarily score lenders, but they do look at capacity. So address your personal credit. Second, I would say get organized. Organize is those statements and those documents that needs to be in your toolbox. If you are in the heavy on the account receivable world, and how long does it take for people to pay you? Some of you may be subcontractors working under a prime, and that prime may not pay you, but every 60 days, every 45 days, a lender is going to want that. They call it an account aging report. How long is accounts and invoices lingering out there before people pay you your money? Because that impacts your cash flow. You need to understand that yourself. That's a good management document for you. Profit loss statements. I mean, they going to want to see that from time to time. Your P&Ls. Get some good P&Ls. Understand what the real numbers are when it come down to your business. Again, 2 to 3 years of personal tax returns, 2 to 3 years of business tax returns. Absolutely. And if you're in a borrowing mentality or attaining financing, you're seeking to attain financing, you're going to have to show a profit. You really need to know a few ratios. On your personal side, you need to know your DTI, your debt to income ratio. You need to know that number and manage your life according to that number. Baby, I want $125,000 Cadillac XLA 2021. Well, sweetheart, the DTI says no, or DTI says yes. Okay, right? So you got to really take a look at that. Manage it per DTI. Manage it per your what they would call your loan to value ratios. When you start talking about pulling equity out of assets, and no matter what that assets is, manage it to your LTV, loan to value. If you got a billing, a commercial billing, and a commercial billing worth $200,000, I mean, and a lender saying they're gonna lend you 80% of that $200,000, I mean, know the numbers. That means you're not trying to take out any small loans against that necessarily, because you want a big loan, and you want your loan to value ratios to fall in line. Global cash flow. Some people say earnings before interest and taxes. You have to know what your earnings are before you have to pay taxes on it, right? Manage your business if you're really wanting to be bankable and lender ready and attain the financing that you need. Manage your business to those ratios. understanding those ratios. What's your cash flow per month? How much is your business really cash flowing? What's your revenue? Now, revenue is not necessarily profit, but what's your average revenue per month? So, if you know the numbers, how much of your revenue are you keeping? How much of your sales are you keeping as far as net profit is concerned? So, how much of your gross receipts are you keeping? So there's a lot of factors that goes into that. I think overall, when we really start to look at bottom line, the one thing I always ask everybody is, would you rather have 10% of $1 million, or would you rather have 90% of 100,000? 10%, 10% of $1 million, or 90% of 100,000?
You asked me which one would I have? Want to have?
Yeah. Don't answer the question. Think about it now. I want the audience to. I'm messing with you tonight, real tough.
Yeah, you are. Because I got to do some math right.
A lot of the businesses would say, a lot of people would say, I would rather have 10% of $1 million. So you made $1 million and you only got to keep 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Or you made $100,000 and you got to keep 90%. So you made 100,000, but your net profit was 90,000. You made $1 million and you only got to keep 100,000. And so we as entrepreneurs, as business owners, got to understand bottom line, right?
Yeah.
And sales is one thing, but what's your profit margins? What's your true profit margins? When you start to think about attaining financing from that standpoint, really diving in, looking at the numbers, managing to the ratios, being able to approach a bank, being able to approach a bank and be bankable because you are managing to the numbers. And so that's where it's really important that you have to manage to the numbers. And so managing to the numbers, the ratios, all of that is really where you need to be as the business owner.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk a little bit about different types of funding. We have angel investors, you have personal people that can invest in your business. Talk a little bit about different types. And then I'm gonna let you, because I know you still working.
You got the banks,
mm-hmm.
and the banks. You got large corporate banks. Large corporate banks are always. Large corporate banks gonna always require a paper.
Mm-hmm.
They gonna always require a paper. Those are your top of the elite of your Fortune 500 banks. You know them folks, your Bank of America and your U.S. Bank and your Wells Fargo and your Citi, and your Chase, and they can cherry pick their clients, and they're gonna have stronger credit guidelines and everything because that's just what they do. So, you got to have a paper to. When I say a paper, I'm basically talking 775, 780 to 850 to really maneuver. Now, one thing about large corporate banks, they're able to lend you a lot more money. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the process is a lot smoother as long as you meet their requirements and you're their ideal target customer. So that's where that comes in as far as the large commercial banks. Then you have what you call community banks. Community banks want to see you really about a 660 credit score. There are some products that they have out there that's government-backed loans that they can play with on your personal side. But to really maneuver through your community bank, your Bank of OZK is a great community bank. Arvaz Bank is a great community bank. Simmons, Reliance. I have done have financial relationships with all of them, so I can't knock them because they have lended me money and my business is money. A Stone Bank in Whitehall, great community bank. So when you start to think about approaching a community bank, you're looking at about a 660 credit score, and you could easily maneuver through a community bank like that. Then you got what I call your small banks, the banks where you can walk in and shake the bank owner. And you know, I have to throw out banks like Merchants and Farmers Bank in the Greater Bryan area. Down there, Mr. Ashton Icott and that team has done a lot for minority companies. And there's so many other small banks that's out there, but those small banks, you know, they look at deals different, and credit score is not a measurement. So you got your banks, and then I'm going to shift it a little bit because I'm going to throw an acronym out there and say CDFI. And your CDFIs is your community development financial institutions. Now, CDFI can be a bank, it can be a credit union, it can be a micro fund, it can be a revolving loan fund. CDFIs can be a number of things. But when we start thinking about CDFIs, CDFIs mean community development financial institutions. So here in Arkansas, I have to give a shout out to the CDFIs here because they do some great work. And one of them right out the bat, led by Mr. Darren Williams, is the Southern Bancorp Partners. Back in my tenure with the state, dealing with the loan mobilization program, Southern Bancorp did a lot of great loans in the greater Arkadelphia area for businesses as well as in the Hot Springs area. And so Southern Bancorp is a CDFI bank, and they have a nonprofit side, Southern Bancorp Partners. That's a CDFI as well. And CDFIs have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes down to lending. Forge out of Huntsville, Arkansas, been in the game for 30 years. They're a CDFI. You got Hope Credit Union out there. You have Arkansas. I can't leave out Arkansas Capital. Kudos to Arkansas Capital Corporation. To me, they really stepped up in a huge way doing PPP, and they really help what I would say the minority community, the small business community, the veteran-owned business community. They really help people that a lot of lenders would have overlooked. Arkansas Capital Corporation is out there. And these are CDFIs, and again, their underwriting guidelines are just a lot more flexible, and that destination and the assistance that they have from the government allows that to be so. You have credit unions that have like our Arkansas Federal Credit Union that's starting to develop a business aspect to them. And credit unions are really good, those that have that business aspect to them. You know, they're a player in the game. Again, you don't have to have perfect credit scores. And some of them are a little bit more flexible on the DTI ratios and the loan to value ratios to some extent. But you have what you call micro lenders. And that's a space that exists, and there's a lot of them that exist online with the micro lenders. You know, typically you're looking at a higher rate with the micro lenders that's out there. I would say be cautious of that. Not all micro lenders, but some. And typically, when I use the term micro lenders, different people got different definitions of it. At one time, a micro loan was anything under $50,000. Now, I think that definition has flexed a little bit. You could do a lot with $50,000. You ain't crazy. A micro loan may be anything under $25,000. So when you start to think about attaining financing, that's an option out there. The micro lenders. I never forget. I needed an injection of cash, and I had to resort to some hard money loans to get into an investment property. And I think the interest rate was 33% on that thing, but they was the only game in town. I had tapped out all my other resources. And that's the thing. Now, interest is a tax deduction. Now I'm going back to taxes, right? Yeah. It's a write-off on your taxes. But I think then you have what you call your planning development districts. Your planning development districts, Central Arkansas Planning Development District, for those that live in Central Arkansas, planning development districts are scattered throughout the state. Some of them still have what you would call a revolving loan program as part of their services, and those districts are federally and state funded. And because they are federally and state funded, they have this revolving loan program, and it goes before the board, and the board is made up of people in those communities, and they vote on whether or not to approve a loan. And planning development districts are nonprofit organizations. They're one of the best kept secrets that we have in the state, and they've been around for 60 years. They have money. They got some of the CARES Act money. They have the revolving loan money. They have programs that's out there that's that's available to the people in their districts. So most definitely it's one Southeast Arkansas Planning Development District, Southwest Arkansas Planning Development District, West Central Planning Development District. Take a look at those. I do think that looking at government-backed programs, we know SBA has been around for a very long time, but SBA is typically outside of the disaster loan. And the disaster loan existed before COVID. I had to remind people of that. But the SBA have programs that they implement through the banks as well as through your CDFIs. And so one of the SBA programs is what you call the 7A program. And a lot of banks just have a special designated person that handles SBA 7A programs, loans. So that 7A program is there. It helps small businesses make up the difference. Basically, it's a guarantee from the government to the banks, to the lenders, that if the loan default, the government steps in and they pay a certain percentage of that loan if the loan defaults. And so, and the SBA tries to do everything that they can do to ensure that that business is successful and that loan don't default. Now that's out there. On your CDFI side and CD side, they typically use the 504 program. And there's that's another SBA guaranteed product that's out there. If you are in the rural areas, another government agency is called the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. They have a guarantee program if you fall in their service area. So those guarantee programs don't necessarily make a bad loan a good loan, but they make a loan that has some strengths and maybe some weaknesses doable. It's not the guarantee programs are just not going to make an impossible deal possible. Yeah. But they do step in and can make up the difference of a business that may have a little shortcoming. And so familiarizing yourself and getting in contact with your SBA officer at your financial institutions and going through that process. SBA has helped birthed a lot of businesses with those 7A 504 programs and a lot of community development projects as well. Your municipalities may have some form of funding, both on the city level, county level, and state level. So reaching out to them to see what programs that they have for their residents is also another way to tap into some funding. We used to have the running joke of friends, family, and fools. The 3 F's. That sometimes is an option for some folks. I would say even with those, if they still want to see some type of business plan or evaluation, like they don't have their money for nothing. They got some sense. So don't just take a conversation to them. But I do think that That's always an option. Um, Private investors or equity investors, they exist. Those are more typically for short-term investments. The interest rate that they're going to charge on those type of loans are high because these people are just trying to make their money. The fee structure on those loans are high, but it can give you the cash that you need to do what you need to do as far as your business. So, so that's something too to look at.
Okay.
That's something too to look at. Is looking at it from that standpoint. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot of opportunities. Business to business lending. If you're trying to attain financing, sometimes you have to sell parts of your company. And if you look at anyone, most companies that are successful today, and I want minority businesses to kind of shift the consciousness that we sometimes have about doing things and conducting business. Um, would you rather have 100% of something that's in the ground and that's not making no money, that's not going nowhere, or would you rather have 50%, 10%, or 45%, or 49% of something that's making you some money? And what I'm talking about is we need to learn how to restructure, bring business partners in that have strengths that we don't have. And I'm gonna tell you this right off the back in attaining financing, that may be the simplest, most easy way to really get a hold of some money for your business is let go that 100% ownership of it. I mean, that I know that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, and I know we all heard so many success stories, but even if you look at Walmart, folks, it's not 100%. If you look at Bank of America, the original people, it's not 100%, and the list go on and on. I mean, Amazon have shares that and that's what, and you buy so many shares. I mean, I want you to really understand that that's the way to attain financing that we don't always consider. We got to be willing to let go.
Yeah.
Ownership structure. That 100% don't mean nothing when your business ain't making no money and you can't grow the way that you need to grow.
That is true. All right. Well, you have covered some amazing points this evening. Actually, you covered all of them without me telling you what to cover. So you hit all the little notes on the head. But the biggest thing was I'm glad that you talked about getting prepared and having the paperwork and making sure you have those certain things in your toolkit. Because I think a lot of times, I did some consulting a while back too, but I would get people that come and say, I need to borrow money, and they wouldn't have any of that paperwork in place. A lot of times they hadn't even written their business plan. They didn't have a clear idea of what they needed. They pull these numbers out of the air and tell you, I need 15,000, but couldn't tell you what they need the 15,000 for. So, hooking all these things together is when you're writing that business plan and you get to the part where you're doing your financials and you're doing your projections, here's where you're going to plug all those things in so that it makes sense. Because when you go to borrow some money from somebody, they're going to want to know that your company is profitable, for one. They want to see projections to see what you're going to be making in the future, because you have to have a way to pay that money back. And they're going to want to know what's the potential for loss. So if you have all that stuff up front and you can explain it and talk a person through it, plus you've got the personal credit together, then your chances are a little bit better. But when you're going in and you don't have any of those things, you can almost guarantee you're 100% going to be a no. So make sure that you get all those all that stuff together. Now, one thing, and I'm glad you kind of hit on it this week, but we're going to bring it up next week, is, and this is part of my MPA background and having the right people in the boat. But what are the right people that you need around you when you do start your business? Because one of the things Anthony mentions and talks about quite often, we always talk about having a CPA. You talk about having an attorney present, somebody who has experience as a CFO or even a CEO for that matter. Somebody has experience in the insurance part of it, because all of these things are going to play a part of whether or not your business is profitable, whether or not your business is successful, and whether or not you can sustain. Nobody wants to start a business on Monday and be out of business by Friday.
Right.
So, you said, you hit the nail on the head again when you said we can't do everything. And I think a lot of times when we get into our 100% thinking, it comes with, I'm the boss, I'm going to run everything, I'm going to do everything, and we can't do that. So there are some people that you need to have in the boat with you when you start launching out and want to start your business, so that you're not, number one, overwhelmed. You're not dealing in places that you don't, like you said, your expertise is not in that. Unless you are a bookkeeper, you won't understand the bookkeeping situation. Unless you are an attorney, you're not going to understand the legal ramifications of your business. Unless you're an insurance agent, you're not going to understand how to secure your assets and how to insure your business and your people and your assets. So you have to have the right people in the boat with you. So I'm glad you hit on that this week, because that's what we're going to cover next week. So it's about 5 minutes, and I know you are out until, baby, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Your son's birthday tonight.
One of the five, my 12-year-old.
Okay.
So my second oldest son turned 12 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday then.
Yep. 4 boys and 1 little girl.
Oh Lord, she running the house too.
She runs the house. She runs the house.
That's not how it works out.
She runs the house.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna let you go, because I know you still on family time. But thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time to talk to us this evening and to give us all that good information. If anybody watches this later in the replay and you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the comment section, and we'll get you some answers as soon as possible. Again, Anthony is the CEO of Readiness Group Consulting, and he is an excellent financial consultant. He's an excellent business consultant. If you ever want to get in touch with him, you can actually jump on the what is the thing, on the feed. I was like, I'm trying to say it, on the feed, and just get in contact with him that way, and then reach out, and he can with you, and y'all can set up a time to sit down and talk. But thank you again for the information. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 7 p.m. here in the Ladies Lounge. I'm Wonderlo, your host. I am appreciative of everybody who tunes in every week, so thank you so much. Again, go back and like our page, follow us, and then make sure that you go over to YouTube, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you can get notifications when the new shows hit. So, Anthony, thank you so much, sir. You go and enjoy the rest of your night with your family, and tell baby happy birthday and bye. And I'll see you next week.
All right, see you. God bless.
All right,
bye.
God bless y'all. Bye-bye. All right, y'all. This is another episode of the Ladies Lounge Wonderlo. I'm your host, and I'm going to see you again next Tuesday at 7 p.m. right here on this station. Talk to you later.